How to do, my 10 Peace and Grease here, and for today's vid we're going to be talking about scanning. So in the scanning guide, the first question you're probably going to ask is, Peace, why should I even care about scanning in the first place? Well, there are three distinct reasons why I personally recommend it. The first are quests. There are a couple of quests that will require you to scan various enemies and or items to complete or progress a quest. So the other reason is lore. Whether we're talking factions, fragments, objects, so on and so forth, you're going to have to scan to get those additional codex entries. The third reason is loot. And when I talk about loot, I'm specifically referring to Cephalon Samaris, and he has got a whole host of loot, whether we're talking about mods, whether we're talking about cosmetics, whether we're talking about captura scenes, whether we're talking about weapons. Yeah, he's got a whole host of loot that you can only acquire with Cephalon Samaris standing. Now, you can only find Cephalon Samaris at a relay. Every relay has a room for Cephalon Samaris. However, I'm not talking about Maru's Bazaar. So with all that said, let's get started. Now, in the game of Warframe, there are two scanners. You have Baby's First Scanner, which is the Codec Scanner, and there's nothing wrong with this. Everybody had to start off with the Codec Scanner. Everybody was rocking it. But at some point, I do recommend you make the switch to the Synthesis Scanner. And the main reason for this is the Codec Scanner is really not upgradable, whereas the Synthesis Scanner is upgradable. So that's the number one reason. Now, as it stands, the Codex Scanner is very cheap. And for 25 scans, it costs you 500 credits. So it's pretty doggone cheap. But it can be even cheaper than that, as in free forever. So we'll get into that. So let's head to a relay and check in with Samaris. Alright, so here we are with Cephalon Samaris. So let's take a look at his offerings. So this is the Synthesis Scanner. Now the Synthesis Scanner, the charges specifically give you 25 for 5,000. So on the surface it seems like the Synthesis Scanner is more expensive. And initially, yes, it is. However, the main thing I want to draw your attention to are these four widgets. Most impressively, the Soul Battery widget. And the reason for this is the Soul Battery widget actually allows you to never have to buy charges ever again. Even if you run Helios, and you guys know that little bastard eats charges for scanning everything under the sun. The Soul Battery widget removes it forever. You now no longer have to buy any charges ever again. You can scan anything and everything as much as you want, as well as Helios can do so. It will never cost you any charges any longer. Yeah, that's pretty damn fantastic. But beyond that, the other three widgets I highly recommend as well. First, you have the Data Parse widget, and this basically just reveals enemy weaknesses and resistance. You've got the Cross Matrix widget, which basically has a chance of counting a scan as 2. And then you have the Vector Thread widget, which reduces the time it takes to charge something, which that's fantastic. So I do recommend all four, but the first one I do recommend you get first is the Soul Battery widget for sure. For sure. But he also has transmute cores, and I think this has it's really been forgotten by either new players, maybe they didn't know, or experienced players, and maybe kind of left it behind. But there are a lot of mods you can get through transmuting, and you just do this at your mod terminal in your orbiter. You select 4 mods, you go to the top of the mod screen where it says transmute, and you have a chance to get a mod, sometimes really good mods that you don't already have. Now, anybody that transmutes a lot can tell you it is insanely expensive to transmute. That's why these transmute cores are so vital. It removes the costs, and it's also one less mod you need to use. So with any of these transmute cores, it now takes only 3 mods plus one of these transmute cores and no credits. So yeah, these things are fantastic. So if you plan on doing any transmuting, get these cores. So the next thing we'll be talking about are some of these mods, and some of these mods are fantastic. So we have Looter for Carrier, so Carrier opens containers. We have Detect Vulnerability for Helios, so Helios scans enemies and reveals their weak spots. We now have Reawaken for Jinn, so Jinn can revive itself every 90 seconds. Negate, your Sentinel prevents status effects. Ambush, this is really interesting one, for the Shade or Prisma Shade. Once the Shade's invis is broken, you gain 120% weapon damage for 3 seconds. Yeah, that's pretty damn interesting. Next, you have Energy Generator for the Death Cube. Any kills that the Death Cube assists, it squirts out an energy orb. So, that's interesting. Energy orbs are good. With energy conversion, energy orbs are going to give you 50% more ability strength on your next cast. So, yeah, health conversion. Health orbs actually grant armor, stacking up to 3 times. Yeah, that's impressive as well. And then Astral Autopsy. On fatal strikes, you get a Codex chart, or excuse me, a scan. So that's pretty good as well. Next, you have the Simulacrum Key, which that gives you access to the Simulacrum. You have a Helio skin, you have the Simulor, you have the Heliocore, you have Exilus adapters, you have Captura scenes, you have the Orvius blueprint, and if you like the mini games, you have the Ludoplex, Happy Zephyr, and Wormius. So there's a lot of good loot here, and in order for you to get it, you're going to need to earn standing. So your next question is more than likely going to be, Peace, what's the best way to earn standing with Samaris? That's an excellent question. So I think a lot of people make the mistake of coming to Samaris and just getting the standard synthesis target. And there's nothing wrong with that. That gives you standing, okay? And so it does work to gain standing. But did you know it's possible for you to have 2 synthesis targets, at one time? So once you acquire the synthesis target from Samaris, you can then come over here to this terminal on the left, the research terminal, and select a personal synthesis target. So you will now have your personal synthesis target as well as the Cephalon Samaris synthesis target. So you'll actually have 2 targets, which I don't have to tell you, that's a great way to earn some standing. Particularly now with that act on Nightwave, if you need to complete the synthesis act, the synthesis target act, I should say, yeah, you can definitely pick up some targets here. But I would have to say about the best way to earn standing is going to be stealth scans. Now, there's a bunch of great contributors out there that have done an excellent job going through the best way to do this. I'm just going to simply summarize, but essentially what stealth scanning does is you jump into a mission with a stealth frame, you go in viz, and scan unalerted, unaware, unalarmed enemies, and any of them you scan can give you crazy amounts of Cephalon Samaris standing. To give you a good example, I was running a capture mission. It took me like 6-7 minutes to get through, but on the way to extraction, I was just randomly scanning unalerted enemies on my way to the extraction. And I ended up with like 7,000 Cephalon Samaris within just a couple minutes. And that's not even a lot. You can match your Cephalon Samaris standing insanely quick with stealth scans. Now, a lot of people like Ibarra because if you have a big energy pool, you can stay in, and good efficiency, you can stay in viz for an crazy amount of time, which gives you plenty of time to scan every enemy on the damn mission. And you can max your Cephalon Samaris standing pretty doggone quickly doing that. So those are my recommendations for y'all. Y'all let me know down in the comments section what your favorite way to get Samaris standing is. And until next time, peace and grease.